Hello, everyone. Today we are going to be going over the flow of energy and also what happens to an ecosystem when there is a drastic change that happens all of a sudden. So, this is our aquarium ecosystem. We have a lamp, we have algae, we have shrimp, and we have a fish floating at the top of the aquarium. Now, when we talk about ecosystems, one thing we always kind of do is show the flow of energy. And in class, we've been talking about how the flow of energy, how the food webs always begin with the sun. And in this picture, you see that there is no sun, but there is a light source that can act as a kind of proxy for the sun to still allow producers to go through photosynthesis. And that is our lamp. So our lamp can produce light, which the producers are able to use to go through photosynthesis. So what we always do is we draw lines and arrows to show the flow of energy. So we're going to draw a line from the lamp to the algae, which are our producers, and we always draw an arrow. The arrow points to where the energy is flowing. So the light from the lamp is flowing to the producers. So I'm going to put a P for producers. And again, we have the energy flowing from the lamp to the producers. So that is our first step. Now we have the producers. And now what we have to do is talk about our herbivores, our consumers, herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores. Well, here we have a couple examples of different types of consumers. The first consumer that we have is our shrimp. Our shrimp, as we can see, are right next to our producers. And so they're kind of using our algae as energy, as a food source to be able to kind of live. And so I'm going to put H for herbivore. So H for herbivore. Now, the energy flows from the producers to our herbivores. So I'm going to draw a line and an arrow that points to the shrimp, which shows that the energy is flowing in our food web to the shrimp. So our food web starts with the lamp, and the light is able to help the producers go through photosynthesis. As we go through photosynthesis, our herbivores and our shrimp are able to take the algae and eat it in our aquarium. And then lastly, we have our fish. Now, our fish is an omnivore. So I'm going to put an O for omnivore. Now, an omnivore, omni means all, vor means eat, so it eats all. Herbivore, herb means plant, vor means eat. And so omnivore eats all foods. It eats both plants and animals. So in our example, the fish eats shrimp. And Mr. Rosenfeld made a quick mistake. The flow of energy should be going to the fish. So we have the lines going from the shrimp to the fish, and the arrow points to the fish because it flows. Energy is flowing from the shrimp to the fish. The fish is eating the shrimp, and so it's able to get its energy from there. But also, I said it's omnivorous, so that means the algae is giving energy to the fish as well. So that's kind of how this aquarium ecosystem is able to thrive and survive. But let's talk about if there's a sudden change in our ecosystem. Let's say that now we have something like this. Can you spot the difference between this and this, besides for the lines that I drew at the beginning of our lesson? If you can't see it, there's a big red brick wall right here. And our brick wall does something very drastic to our ecosystem. It blocks the light. And so our brick wall now means no light from the lamp. No light. So it can no longer have light to give to the aquarium. So what happens? And let's say for this example that the lamp is the only light source. There's no other light source that the aquarium can get. It's only the lamp. And so if it's only the lamp, if the lamp is the only light source that the algae can use for photosynthesis, and that light source is blocked, it changes the entire ecosystem. Well, what happens if an organism can't get energy? If an organism can't get energy, then it begins to die. Now, it doesn't die off immediately, right? We can survive without food for a while, and plants can survive without light for a while. We don't automatically roll over and die, or plants just don't automatically die when there's no light, but eventually it will die. And so let's look at what happens when we begin to lose our algae. Well, now we lost our algae. And now our shrimp, the only food source that the shrimp had was the algae. And now eventually our shrimp will begin to die off because there's no algae for them to eat. And as the shrimp begin to die and the algae begin to die, our fish begins to die because our fish no longer has a food source. So if the light is blocked off and we don't have access to any other light source, when producers die, the whole ecosystem is affected. If producers are somehow affected, it affects the entire ecosystem because the producers are the beginning of the living ecosystem, and everything depends on producers to live in some way or another. If you are carnivorous, for example, right? If you're a carnivore, you need to eat other consumers, right? You need to eat other herbivores or omnivores. Well, if they don't have energy, if herbivores don't have energy from the producers, then our carnivores die because eventually our herbivores die. And same with omnivores. If our producers die, our omnivores lose a big part of their diet, and as the other consumers in the ecosystem die, so do omnivores. And so producers are a big part of our ecosystem. And it is important for us to kind of understand how just a big drastic change can affect the entire ecosystem. And, blocking the light is just one example. Forest fires, which we've talked about today, and droughts, which we'll talk about tomorrow, and all these different type of huge drastic changes can cause a big shift and a big change in our ecosystem.